The sun and you and me and all the stars that we can see are moving at 1,000,000 miles a day.
Hello, welcome to my channel. I'm just gonna give you a heads up about what I'm doing. I'm collaging a few pieces together in response to Doreen Virtue's YouTube about Dolores Cannon, and so I'm doing it in bits and pieces, and I am not a professional. I don't know how long to do clips. I've gotten a copyright claim on my YouTube already, and I'm only like a few into it. So bear with me and hang in there and comment and let me know what I could explain more. Thank you. The reading I'm going to be doing is from Doreen Virtue's book, Daily Guidance from Your Angels. And I had picked 212 because it was a random number that came up for me earlier, and I thought it was perfect for this video of hers. Speak healing words. We angels have discussed the energy, power, and impact of words. Today, we'll focus on their healing effects. We've infused this message with a dose of extra restorative energy, which you're absorbing now as you read these sentences. Meditate breathing in this force with deep inhalations and exhalations. Feel us sending you love and support in every way. Let's work together to use healing language in everything that you say and write. If you'd like, we can guide your words so that they're infused with supreme therapeutic energy. Your speech emits sparks of divine love, and others will feel an impact. As the vessel for the healing words, you'll also feel the elation of the gifts that you are giving. Thought for today: God and angels, thank you for guiding my words today. I ask that my vocabulary be infused with love and positive energy. Let everything that I speak of bring beneficial effects to those who listen. All my words are healing and uplifting. This is the angel's message for you today. I pray that the angels bring you many blessings and help you through your trials. Commercial interruption. I mean no disrespect at all for either one of these lovely souls, Jennifer or Doreen. They are so passionate about what they believe now. I'm just going to challenge some of the statements that they've made and take a deeper look at it. So that's what I'm doing, taking clips of what they've said and challenging it. I hope it'll help you to become stronger in your own belief. So I'm doing a critique of Doreen Virtue's critique of Dolores Cannon. And they were talking in the video about how it's demonic. And it caught my attention so much so I decided I had to write it down because I just kept hearing the word demonic, demons, devil, Satan, all these times. And I found that highly interesting. They are talking about Dolores Cannon, who was a hypnotist, and she came across unusual things like past lives and stuff. And Doreen and Jennifer are saying that it's demonically inspired.
With me again to expose this demonic situation.
So
thank you, Jen, for having me.
I counted 57 times that they said that, and then it caused me to call the Jewish Federation, and some rabbis I left messages, and I will record them when they get back to me, because they used the verse from Deuteronomy 18:10 through 12 about not using divination or being a medium. So I'm going to collage these things together and show you a little bit of my journey.
And she's doing readings. It's not a gift from God. God is clear in his word in Deuteronomy 18:10 to 12, not to consult or practice.
By his word, she means the Holy Bible, the Old Testament, God's word.
Psychic mediumship, fortune telling, interpreting omens. He finds it abominable.
She means the God of the Old Testament finds it abominable.
Detestable to him, but he goes all the way, even to the end of his word, warning us not to engage in these practices.
So I take this verse, it's out of Deuteronomy that she's talking about, 18:10 through 12. There shall not be found among you anyone who makes his son or his daughter pass through the fire, or one who practices witchcraft, or a soothsayer, or one who interprets omens, and a sorcerer, or a medium, or a spiritist, or anyone who calls upon the dead. And so I called Rabbi Blah from Cleveland, Ohio, the Orthodox Jewish tradition, and he encourages us to always read the verse above and what it's talking about. And he said that at that time period, they were going into the land, and they were going into another land, and not to follow those ways, to continue in their traditions. And he says, look at the verse above, and they really don't have Satan or demonic teachings in the Bible, the Old Testament, or the Torah. And he talked about a story that happened about 40 years ago, and he said that there were some people who felt that they had been bewitched. They were a Jewish couple, and they were bewitched, and they asked the rabbi if it's okay if they could go see a person to remove the spell. And the rabbi said, if that's what they believe, as long as the witch who will remove the spell is under God and is not separate from God, and the power comes from God, it's okay to go see him. That's what I learned from this part of that video, and I found it fascinating, and I wish I could have filmed him in person because he was fantastic. Doreen Virtue used to have a New Age spiritual perspective, and she was well known within the community. She was friends with Dolores and Wayne Dwyer and other people of those different New Age kind of thinking. And I think it's been about 5 years that she became a Christian, I would say the fundamentalist, and she is born again and believes that you have to believe in Jesus or you're going to hell.
And that's what everyone needs. We need to not sugarcoat the truth or tiptoe around it. I mean, you either go to heaven or hell, and it's the only way to heaven is Jesus. It's the bottom line. And remember that God is not
On this part, Jen is talking about Dolores not acknowledging Jesus's divinity.
Of course, to die is gain. So that's so we have to test these things, guys, by the word of God and how they identify Jesus Christ. Doreen just mentioned that she did not acknowledge his divinity, that he is the Son of God, that he is God. That's a...
Okay, so Dolores didn't acknowledge it in the same way as Jen acknowledges it. Jennifer, I'm sorry, this lady, this wonderful, beautiful lady who is believing this way, who used to be a medium and is critiquing Dolores. So I'm critiquing you. Okay, thank you for bringing me to this place of questioning and thinking about it and offering up other ideas. And one of my ideas is you're doing it on faith, just like Dolores was. There is no proof. She couldn't prove it, and you can't.
A red flag, a huge red flag. So I just want to encourage you to continue to test the spirits, and that's how you can do that.
I'm going to do a longer video on that part. I hope I don't get copyright. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to do a longer video about testing the spirits because that's one thing I got out of this that was fun for me.
Absolutely. Yeah. The book of Hebrews says we die once and then we go to judgment. So there's no second chance. There's no...
Okay, Doreen. Doreen, I'm just... The two D's is making me confused. I am going to say the same thing that I just said about your friend, that you can't prove it, and I can't prove it's not that way. It's all based on faith, and I'm going to continue to say that. And there's nothing, absolutely nothing wrong to question. That's how our brains work. That's how we figure out our life. That's how we figure out our spirituality. And I am going to make I think I'm going to go on a deep dive on questioning why people believe the way they do.
There's no purgatory. There's no soul sleep where you get this chance to, evolve. This is it. You either accept the gospel or reject it. You either accept Jesus and the truth of Jesus, that he's fully God, fully man.
Okay, I'm going to play a quote from Bart, the guy. He used to be a fundamentalist Christian, and then he became a huge scholar, learning it all so that he could figure out if it was the truth, and then has brought up how the historical Jesus and the texts, and it's all just hearsay. But anyway, Bart says this really fun, cool thing, I thought, because I always wondered that. Like for a gazillion years, for all of eternity, somebody's going to be punished for some terrible thing that they did in their life, and most people don't do terrible things.
Came to earth from a virgin birth, and he lived a sinless life, and he took the punishment on the cross that we all deserve.
Based on faith.
All sinned, every
Based
one of
on
us.
faith.
And then
you don't have proof.
Physically died. He was...
Okay, so that died for us. There's so many... Our interpretation of spirituality and God has shifted and changed and molded with our culture and our thinking and our understanding. And this idea that it has to be this way, well, I guess there's a lot of religions that kind of wanted to force people to believe like they did. And that's a whole other topic. So I'm going to get back to Bart, who's a fabulous teacher.
If you want to talk about why there's hell, surely it means because there's justice, right? That would be God's justice.
I think most of us want to think of God as just, and that there is some retribution for a person doing a terrible thing. But I also think that God is understanding of the human condition. That's why we're human.
So I'm a 30-year-old and I die in a car accident. And, I've kind of been aware of what I'm doing for about, 15 or 18 years. And I haven't been the best of persons, but
being a typical human at 30, goofing around. And I don't like interrupting these things, but I don't want to get a copyright claim. So bear with me.
I don't believe in Jesus, but, and I'm not a real schmuck. I'm going to be tortured for eternity? For like 15 years of like messing up a bit? And in 15 trillion years, that's the beginning? what? And so, like, even evangelic are just like, really? I don't know. That seems a little extreme.
For me, this is just a wonderful example of what he means by God, the retribution God of the Old Testament is just going to punish us for a gazillion years for being human. That's not my interpretation of. I think one of the most powerful aspects of God is unconditional love, the divine source of everything, peace and understanding. It's like the source of all of us knitted together, which would be sort of a new age thinking that Doreen used to have. I went and got my book, 1,000 Faces of God, and the Holy Bible, because I think I'm going to go ahead and look at the verse in Deuteronomy that we looked at, but let's just flip to something. People have interpreted God and the divine in so many thousands of ways, like throughout time and space. That's a cool one. That looks like it's an Egypt guy. This is Hindu. I think it's Shiva with the arms, but I could be wrong. And that's going to bring me into my sharing with you all about a vision I had at one point. I'm going to share it in this, and a vision my friend had. And they were not Christian, but we're not going to hell. I don't believe that. Okay, so Doreen is continuing to talk about Jesus being risen.
Birth, and he lived a sinless life, and he took the punishment on the cross that we all deserve because we've all sinned, every one of us. Amen. And then
I really have an issue with the sinners, and I know she talks in this too. I think it's this one or another one where she talks about New Age people don't like to think of ourselves as sinners, but okay, so I caught myself saying our New Age thinking, and believe it or not, I don't really consider myself New Age, although I do seem airy, fairy, and woo-woo, and a lot of people have said to me that they think of me as woo-woo. So there's a whole lot of stuff there around that, but I don't consider myself that. I just consider myself very open to learning and understanding people's thinking of religion and faith and spirituality, because I think they're all kind of cool. But I have more leanings towards Buddhism with the wheel of suffering and angst and acceptance. There's a lot to that, and I'll share more later. Just so you know, in the Buddhist tradition, the Dalai Lama, they didn't get the concept of self-hatred here. And I think it stems from the Christian kind of ideology of being sinners and never being good enough.
He physically died. He was in the tomb for 3 days, and he was risen, and people talked to him. He was physically risen from the dead.
Okay, so now my alarm went off. All right, so when I have something like that happen in my life where there's a bell or a phone rings at a time I'm making a point, I try to pay attention to what's being said. So let me go back. Wish me luck. This is it.
He physically died. He was in the tomb for 3 days, and he was risen, and people talked to him. He was physically risen from the dead. They ate with him. They touched him. They talked with him.
All right. It was the 5th century, approximately, when the Bible was written. I guess that's theorized, right? We have to go on faith. Just like we have to go on faith that science and archaeologists and all them can approximate the years. So I don't understand what the difference is in my mind between her Book of Angels and feeling like the angels are impressing upon her these words to speak kindly and have healing words. how that's any different from having faith that these authors in the Holy Bible were any less or more inspired, but that is more truth than her truth when she was a groovy New Age babe.
Once you hear her talking about spirit guides, you thought you were talking to angels. And of course, we believe the times we were talking to deceased people. And none of that is true. They're all demons. And these spirit guides masquerade.
None of the psychic mediums, the great prophets in the world, the people that are empaths, everybody that is sensitive, none of them are really having experiences across the dimensions or veils, or God doesn't want to speak to anyone anymore ever since the Bible. That's really hard for me to comprehend. And to call everything else besides the Bible as demonic just is incredible to me, and I can't go there. I'm sorry. I just can't go there. It doesn't work for me.
Is that psychic mediumship, all of the New Age concepts like Dolores was teaching and still is, unfortunately, through her products that are still here, is that this is some sort of a supernatural gift. Like, this is a gift from God. I was told I had a gift from God. I believe.
She's talking in this part about mediums or people who have visions or are able to do things as a psychic, would say that it was a gift from God. God gave them that ability to do these things, and she doesn't believe that it is from God. And this is the one part I like, actually, believe it or not.
And these, you really are hearing from people. You mentioned before that when she was doing the hypnosis and then she started to get information, and that is when you're in a trance-like state or a meditative state, you are open to demons, and and you will get information. And the thing is that all supernatural things are not from God, so you have to be.
When I was in my heavy-duty, intensive, intentional meditation practice for years, I would have a lot of people, or especially Christians, tell me I was having a dangerous practice. And that's a whole other topic. That's not, well, it's kind of what I was wanting to share about it, is the part that I like about this, vetting. I've come up with the term vetting because I like to try to find the positive things in occurrences of my life, that I was pulling out things I could use, and I thought, I like this because I can use the term vetting. I gotta vet out the occurrences that happened to me.
Be so extremely careful with that.
I guess I'll share the vision I had one time, I think a couple of years ago. It just was out of the blue. I was getting ready to go to work, and I had this vision of Brahma with the 4 heads, Brahma, God, and it was like the top part of it. It was just 4 heads. And I came to find out, I had to look it up. Fortunately, we have this wonderful thing where we can look at things instantly. And yes, there is a 4-headed deity, Brahma, and it's apparently, you can see, I think it's Hindu, although I think it's crossed different spiritual traditions through the years. And it's apparently like you can see all sides. God can see all sides. And I couldn't figure out then why I had it. And then when I listened to this thing about Dolores, they're critiquing Dolores's demonically inspired books. I was like, that's what it was for. Because not everybody has visions of Christ. It sometimes is another religion you're being shared. And I know other stories of things happening like in hospice work, and other chaplains I know that's done hospice work. And another story is a friend, or another reverend friend of mine that I know. She had a vision of the Tibetan Buddha, the healing mandala specifically. And she was not Buddhist, did not ever see them. And she had this vision before she was getting ready for a major surgery. Why? Why did that happen? After she got out and looked it up, it was the healing Buddha. It isn't all demonic. It isn't. But there is something good about vetting.
Interpreting omens, he finds it abominable. It's detestable to him. But he goes all the way, even to the end of his word, warning us not to engage in these practices. So if you see somebody and they're throwing out Jesus words and they're promising.
So this next part here that she's talking about, Deuteronomy again, I'm going to have to look it up, the verse before. And I'm also... I have got to look and see, did Jesus actually quote Deuteronomy, like the Old Testament, and bring it in? I'm going on a fun quest here.
You know, there's been a couple kids who remembered their names and such, and they were able to go to the gravestone of that person and to know things about their grandfather who passed before they were born. And there's things that we can't explain in our logical mind, but the demons, they're studying us. So of course they can plant memories, even to...
All right. I'm going to do a part 2. I have to do that because I just think reincarnation is so interesting, and I'm going to dive into it.
She looked like Aunt Beulah. She really did. And you would expect her to talk about the coupons in her purse to buy Tide laundry detergent at 10 cents off. But she'd open her mouth and she would talk about the Greys and the aliens. I mean, she talked about it in public everywhere she went. She'd sit next to you on the plane and she'd talk to strangers about aliens. I mean, she was an evangelizer for the demons.
All right, I have to unpack that. That's just so thick, isn't it? Thick. I would love to hear your comments, what you think of Dolores being demonic. Yeah. Okay, so let's look at the positive. All right, I'm going to look at the positive. You can look at the positive with me if you want to. Her video here, Doreen Virtue's video here, is making me be able to think about this and express it to you. And I'm going to have to do a deep dive on aliens and those kind of thinking as far as spirituality is concerned, because there is not just one dimension.
And our galaxy is only one of millions of billions in this amazing and expanding universe.
We live in a universe that's incredibly unending, and we're the only ones. And because maybe historically we called them aliens, or they got the name gray because of the way they looked to some people, does that mean some people haven't seen them? Or if they have seen them, they're just demons from hell? Seriously? All right. All right. Okay, well, thanks for hanging in here with me. Let's continue.
Techniques that I used, my publisher used in the New Age, with people who are trying to convince Christians that it's okay to be a Christian witch or a Christian astrologer or a Christian yoga and all these things that are pagan, and calling them Christian. And I get so mad, so angry. And I know a lot of it is because I did that myself, which I repent and apologize for, because I used to twist scripture to justify what I was doing. And only the people who didn't know the Bible would believe it, because I didn't know the Bible, they didn't know the Bible. So we were the blind leading the blind.
Right.
And it's just, I mean, time's growing short. Jesus is going to return.
This is the apocalyptic thinking, and it's pretty prevalent within a lot of A lot of the Christian denominations, like Baptist and I know there's others, and cults. Some cults go there with the apocalyptic thinking that the world is going to end. I believe that the apocalyptic thinking comes from the Revelation part of the Bible, and there's a lot of people that have taken it to extreme and used it within their cults. And Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow used that, and I'm going to do a YouTube on them as well. Idea of the Jesus second coming is so appealing to a lot of people because who doesn't want to get the hell out of this place of suffering sometimes?
And we don't have second chances. This is it.
That's right. And there's a real surge too with the use of technology. I mean, Satan is current, he is active, the demons are active, and they're using technology. You have Christian witches and Christian psychics all over
And
TikTok.
there's no such thing, of course.
There's no such thing. Tarot card readers, a click of a button. That's all it takes these days. And they are really coming after your kids too. I really am passionate about that. Doreen said that she...
Okay. I think this is where vetting fits. There are a lot of people out there, and not all of them are maybe have your best interest. So vet your tarot card readers, vet your mediums, vet them. You can check in to see if it's coming from God, as the rabbi said. Is it coming from God? Are they under God? Then they can remove the bewitched spell.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what did Hitler say about telling a lie over and over again? People start to believe it eventually.
Right.
And especially if they want to believe it. If people want to believe that this is not the only life, they want to believe they get a second chance, like that movie Groundhog Day. They want to believe that that their loved ones.
Okay, I just stopped at this part because of the Hitler comment made me question whether Hitler was the one that really said it or if Goebbels said it. I don't know. It's just to talk about how the information can most definitely be changed over time, and we're not allowed to question whether the Bible is authentic or it can be questioned. You can question it. It's good to question your spirituality and why you believe the way you do. Find your own truth, the inner wisdom. And as Jesus once said, the kingdom of God is within. Find it within yourself.
And justice, But she believed the ETs brought all this to us.
Oh, wow.
And so I recently interviewed Joseph Jordan, who's been an ET UFO researcher for over 27 years with MUFON, which is the top UFO.
All right. The reason that I stopped at that point, because she interviewed Joseph Jordan on another one of our YouTubes, and later on in this clip, she talks about how Joseph Jordan is very, very verifiable. I have to find that part so I can share it with you. But again, it just reiterates to me about how the difference between like taking the Bible on faith, but vetting people now who are able to prove what they said or the research that they found.
He is just an amazing researcher. All the work that Dolores was doing.
Well, beautiful souls, you've made it this long into it. Thank you. Keep hanging in there. And remember to be kind to yourself and one other person today.
I mean, most of my so-called ex-friends are not talking to me. And
Okay.
I've reached out to a few of them, and I don't hear anything back. And so I'm going to have to come up with these type of videos and warn people because I know their work very intimately because it deceived me.
Yeah, and it's a race to the...
I think I have to move this over. Okay. I hope I don't get in trouble for having her picture on there while I talk about this. But, okay. This was something that stood out for me because Doreen just talks about how she canceled all her books with the publisher that she was with when she was the groovy new age spiritual babe. She canceled all of her cards. She had a ton of cards. I have some of them, angel cards and goddess cards and all that. And she calls all of her friends demons. Well, I wouldn't want to be friends with somebody who referred to me as demonically inspired and gonna go to hell. I don't understand why she can't see that. I do understand where Doreen is coming from. She's coming from her heart and wants people to go to heaven.
Eternity on the table. This is eternity on the table. This is, if we died today, where would you go? It's eternity. Whatever happens here it's just going to pass away. The material things, even your health.
So,
whatever.
Like Bart says, we're going to go to hell for some few years of
is going to determine
being
where
a
you go.
sinner.
And we don't want you to be eternally damned.
Really?
Okay, I'm just going to say it like it is. We don't want you to be eternally damned, nor do we want you to be demonically oppressed. If you
I understand. Thank you for caring about us.
Believing the lies, you are inviting demons into your life.
It's hard
into
to
your
swallow.
home. And
Sorry.
these children that are reporting things. Listen, I say all the time.
All right,
Satan
I gotta
doesn't skip over your
stop. I
children
gotta
because he thinks
stop.
they're cute. Definitely go watch that, guys, because you need to know the truth about that. Don't get hooked into these demonic lies that are being spread. It's so easy to spread, and then you find yourself gossiping with people, which is another problem.
Yeah.
And you're talking about these things, but yeah.
Well, all the ET communities contradict each other anyway. I mean, you'll get confused if you get steeped in that, because you've got people like David Icke, who says that there's reptilians, who is really who King Charles is, and a lot of the elites, they're really reptilians pretending to be people to trick us, and so they're all bad guys. And then Dolores Cannon say, yeah, but the Greys, they're the good guys, and then other people say, no, the Greys are tricking you, they're the bad guys. So none of them can agree. It's like in the New Age.
Yeah, nobody can agree on Christian thinking. Everybody, this just gets me so frustrated. Okay. Okay. All right. Sorry, everybody. I just keep going through this because I'm just like fascinated. I'm fascinated that she would say how there's no agreement. Well, there's no agreement in thinking a lot of the time. People have their own interpretation. We have 7 billion people on this planet, and I don't know how many of them are Christians. Let's just say there's, I don't know, 500 million Christians. I'm just making that up. 500 million Christians. Those 500 million Christians are going to have 500 million interpretations of Christ and their understanding of the Bible, because they're uniquely and divinely made sparks of God. That's how I think of them.
And his servants, who again masquerade as angels of righteousness, as servants of righteousness. They masquerade as angels of light. He is a copycat. He's a phony baloney, the devil, and he pretends to be, but he pretends to be the light, but he's not the light. He's the false light. Jesus is the true light of the world. And like Doreen mentioned before, when demons know, and they...
Okay, so you know, I love angels. That's all I have to say. And Lucifer, I don't know if it's true, the story is true, that he was a fallen angel who wanted to be God, and then God kicked him out of heaven. Okay, I have to look up that story and think about it. Let me know if you're interested in learning more about that story of Lucifer or Satan. I don't think there's a lot of that in the Bible. I think that's interpretation.
And remember that God is not a God of confusion. He's the God of peace.
I agree.
Find confusion in the New Age.
God is not a God of confusion. God, for me, is the source of all that is, and nothing but love and compassion, and we have put our interpretation onto God.
And into humanity, he committed no sin, yet he was tempted, yet he hungered, he thirsted, he felt anger, he felt grief, he committed no sin and took a horrible death and a horrible torture. It's emotional, but he did that for us, and he is the way and he is the truth, just to set us free out of that sin. And then when we accept the work on the cross and we put all of our faith and trust in him, and we believe in our hearts and confess with our mouth that he is Lord, we are saved. The Holy Spirit comes to live within your heart. Ephesians 1:13.
Okay. I have to take some of my experience being a prison chaplain and apply it here. I think that Jesus is a wonderful symbol for saving someone that may have committed an atrocious crime like murder or something, and sometimes there's just the pain and the guilt and the grief is so much that Jesus offers that redemption.
System with the third eye, ooh, enlightenment, ooh, wisdom. Dee and I laugh. No, seriously, this is the reason why we come out and do this. So bottom line is Dolores Cannon, mark and avoid.
So I'm doing a little search on Dolores Cannon and find out how many books she had written total. I think it's about 17. So here she was born in St. Louis, Missouri in 1931, and she passed away in October 2014. And it says she started this when she was about 50 years old and was doing hypnosis for people. So let's look at a couple of images. Oh, here we go. These are the books. I've read some of them. I don't believe I've read all of them. I like the Jesus of Essenes. Jesus and the Essenes is the one that Dolores wrote, Dolores Cannon, and that Doreen was critiquing. Dolores wrote it in 1992. And it's a really, really interesting and wonderful book, actually. It just gives this story of one of the times that someone went into a hypnosis session and she had this experience of being in a scene.
People's coming back and giving messages, apparitions, but it's not the actual person because they can't come back into the
Here's
body again.
Dolores
So once you get over there,
at a talk about her book, Life After Death.
There is no hell. There isn't.
Did you hear her say that?
Of cases, there is no hell.
Let me play that again.
You know, something's gone. So once you get over there, you're met with great love. There is no hell. There isn't. I've done thousands and thousands of cases. There is no hell. Hell is an invention of the church, and you can see why. It was never in the Bible. It's something has been invented. There is no hell. A loving God would not do that to people. You are allowed to make all the mistakes you want. You're allowed to come back and do it again and again till you get it right. They don't punish you just because you make a mistake and throw you into an oven.
Right.
It doesn't work that way.
It doesn't.
You have to realize you have made mistakes. Earth is a school. But it's a school. You come here to learn lessons.
We're made human, and then we're supposed to be punished for eternity for being human. Doesn't mean it's okay for you to do things.
But it's a school. You come here to learn lessons. But it's a school where you can't skip a grade, but you can have to repeat a grade. You don't get it right. You have to come back and do it again until you get it right. You can't go from kindergarten to college. It's impossible. You have to learn the lessons, and the lessons are not easy. Earth is a school where you learn emotions and limitations.
Buddha taught that too. Here is Jesus and the Essenes book by Dolores. And I'm going to read just a bit of the intro where she talks about that she had this one woman who remembered her past life as an Essene apparently during Jesus' time. I cannot claim that what I have presented in this book is the absolute truth, facts beyond dispute. I don't know, and I doubt seriously whether anyone alive has the answers, but maybe, for the first time, break loose from the mold that has held you prisoner since childhood. Open the windows of your mind and allow curiosity and the quest for knowledge to enter like a fresh spring breeze, and sweep away the cobwebs of complacency. Dare to think the unthinkable. Dare to question the unquestionable. Dare to consider different concepts of life and death. And your soul, your eternal self, will be all the richer for it.
So remember when you're feeling very small and insecure, how amazingly unlikely is your birth. And pray that there's intelligent life somewhere up in space, 'cause there's bugger all down here on Earth.